Okay, so let's see. Something about parsley. My favorite. Freaking love parsley. Oh, okay, so these are the recipes. HelloFresh gives you kind of like a booklet. These are individual pages, which I really like. You can repurpose them and put them into a recipe binder like I have, and I've been doing that with my HelloFresh ones, but smaller, and you actually have to like rip them out of the booklet. So what do we have? Fingerling potato and kale hash with baked egg and aged cheddar cheese. Okay, I feel like this is like breakfast more so. Something I would eat for breakfast. Step-by-step ingredients, really colorful pictures. Let's see, it tells you the calories, the prep time, the cook time, just like HelloFresh, the ingredients. Good step-by-step instructions. Spiced eggplant and tomato bake with fregola, sarda, and mozzarella cheese. And crispy tofu and bok choy red curry. I'm not super excited about this one. I love tofu, but not a big fan of curry. I actually just had a curry meal in my HelloFresh box last week, and I wasn't too crazy about it just because I'm not a big curry fan. But one thing, these are all under 1,000 calorie meals, and this one's 700, this one's 605, and the potato and kale hash is 590. On average, these two recipes say they take 20 to 30 minutes, and this one says cook times 35 to 45. HelloFresh gives you the total time, whereas Blue Apron gives you the prep time and the cook time. So, not a big deal to me, but something worth noting. This is an insulated little bubble wrap thing. And then all of the ingredients are kind of piled inside. And this is actually one thing that I read about Blue Apron when I was reading some reviews online. They pile everything in here, wrap things individual, kale hash, knickknacks, tomato bake knickknacks. I'm not really sure what knickknacks are, but everything is just kind of thrown in here, packaged, you know, separately, individually. But everything's just kind of tossed in here. And I think there's a lot of unnecessary packaging, like a tomato, like this box for tomatoes, the tofu, like all this little extra packaging. Like, let's just see, tomato baked knickknacks. Let's see what a knickknack is. Brown paper bag. Oh, okay, so spices, like bags of spices. Again, like if these are packaged in here, I don't know why we're packaging them again in a brown paper bag. It just seems like a lot of unnecessary wrapping and packaging. But then like they won't wrap. I guess the tomatoes they figure will bruise more easily than a red pepper that's not packaged. Like the eggs, I could understand them having their own individual, they're wrapped really well. But I'll say right off the bat, one huge strike against them in my opinion is with HelloFresh, each box is individually packaged. Literally take a box out of my fridge and all the ingredients are in that box. With having Blue Apron do it this way, I now have to pull the recipe and like I'll basically put all this stuff away in my fridge, but then I'm gonna have to pull it when I go to make the recipe. I'm gonna have to actually like separate and pull things and figure out what goes with what recipe. To me, it just seems like one extra tedious step. You know, if they're gonna use, obviously the packaging isn't that much of a concern to them. If they're gonna use all these things, HelloFresh just has one cardboard box with everything included. They do package like the meats separately, fish separately, but it's just one box and everything is in there, whether it's a tomato, a little bag of spices, you know, a sprigs of parsley. So this, I don't love this. Actually, like find places for everything like this in my fridge. When I did my first HelloFresh unboxing with you guys, I showed you they were all individually, like the recipes themselves were in individual bags. Now they have since switched to these boxes. So like I pulled this box out, it tells me the exact meal and all of the ingredients for that meal is in this box. So for me, I'd much rather this kind of packaging than like just random, extra unnecessary. I don't know, this just seems really excessive, and I love that I could just like with HelloFresh, like just jump in and take the box out, put it on the counter and everything's there. now I'm gonna actually have to like pull things out, which is, you know, typical what you would normally do when you're cooking. But I think the HelloFresh individual boxes takes up a lot less room in my fridge, whereas like with this, I have to like put everything away. It's not all like compartmentalized, but we'll see. I really will miss, I think, the convenience factor, so we'll see. But I'm gonna make each of these recipes. I'm gonna film them, tell you how they tasted. I will be honest though, right off the bat, the 3 recipes, I'm not like super excited about them. And I've been subscribed to Blue Apron for a while, like just subscribed to their newsletter, so I've actually been able to see the meals. And the meals compared to the HelloFresh meals, for me, they're not as enticing. They're not really like me, like they're not really my taste. Like the spiced eggplant and tomato bake's probably the one I'm most excited about. But you know, I'm not big on potatoes, and like I said, I'm not really a big fan of curry. I did subscribe to the vegetarian box through Blue Apron. They do have a classic that includes meat as well. But we'll see. I could end up really loving these and just expanding my horizons a little thanks to Blue Apron. But initially, the whole packaging and how it's boxed, I will say I give a point to HelloFresh and take one away for Blue Apron. The cooler packs, which is great because it keeps your food cold if you're not home to get your delivery that day, which HelloFresh does the same thing. But overall, that's my first impression on the unboxing, and I will check back in with you as I make each meal this week. I just got done making the fingerling potato and kale hash. It seems like it's gonna be pretty good. It looks really good, it smells good. It's in my oven baking right now. For starters, it was a little bit tedious, as I expected, to kind of pull which ingredients goes to this recipe. I really missed the convenience of just taking the designated meal box out of my fridge and having everything there. There was a lot of packaging, like I feel like too much packaging, way more than needed. For example, like the eggs came in this, and then they were inside this, and then they were inside this box. You know, for eggs, I think if they were packaged just maybe in this, I think they would have been fine. Again, you know, a block of cheese inside this bag. I just felt like it was a lot of packaging, very unnecessary packaging. I've been ordering from HelloFresh for a long time, and they don't have nearly as much packaging and like individually wrapped things, and I've never had an issue. They also gave me like one huge hunk of garlic, and I just kind of tore off what I needed for the recipe. That was one thing I kind of missed. HelloFresh already had the designated amount peeled and ready to go for you, so you just literally grated them or chopped them however you need. So that was kind of, you know, I'm reaching here. These are tedious details that goes into cooking, but when you are paying for the convenience of having everything kind of like prepared for you, these are just little things I think that matter. When I first got this, I thought this feels like more of a breakfast meal to me. It's not something I would traditionally make for breakfast. I mean dinner. It's ready apparently. I'm not a big potato fan. That's the one thing I was kind of like about, because they give you the little potatoes, which are supposed to be really yummy, but they're just, I feel like potatoes are very dirty, and unless they're organic, I only buy organic, like you just don't know. And I mean, I washed them as well as I could, but without like shaving them, they just felt kind of dirty. So that's not really a strike against Blue Apron. I mean, I guess it kind of could be as far as like the meal choice, but we'll see. I'm going to show you what it looks like as I take it out here and give it a taste, and we'll see what I think. Okay, so here it is. The cooking time was a little bit off. It said 7 to 9 minutes, but I ended up, the yolk like was the egg was barely even cooked, so I threw it back in for an additional like 6 minutes, and now it's still a little runny, which is how I like it, but I think that's the only thing that was kind of off about the recipe. The only other thing I wanted to say was I feel like this was very wordy, like a lot of steps, whereas I feel like HelloFresh is very straight and to the point. So that's what it looks like. I'd say it looks pretty close. Oh, I forgot to add the parsley. Pretty close to the picture. Let's give it a taste. I can get past the fact that it feels like a breakfast meal to me. Like, I'm going to save half, and Addie and I will probably share it for breakfast tomorrow. It's really good. This would make a really good Sunday brunch option, or like a weekend meal. And it's kind of one of those things I feel like you can make a little bit ahead of time, prepare it, and then throw it in the oven when you're ready to serve it. So that's meal number 1. Tonight we made the spiced eggplant and tomato bake with Fergola, Sarda, and mozzarella cheese. The mozzarella was probably the best mozzarella I've ever tasted. It was just a huge hunk, and I broke it apart. There was very minimal packaging compared to the meal I made last night, which I appreciated. The one thing I will say is I think they went a little overboard on the spices. I tasted like the guts of it before I actually baked it, and it tasted like a little bit too spicy for me. But the other thing I wanted to note was this one actually says that it makes 3 servings, but I'm going to show you, it looks like a ton. Like it looks like maybe even 4 people could eat this meal. It was vegetarian. Each serving is 605 calories, and the pasta, they're calling it pasta, but it looks like is really couscous to me. So fairly simple, a lot of prep of just like dicing and cutting like all the produce, but pretty typical. And yeah, so let's show you what it looks like. Are you seeing this too? I think I did a pretty good job, don't you think? Mm-hmm. It's the same. So on the bottom is like the guts with the pasta and peppers and spices, and then it's just topped with eggplant and tomatoes, breadcrumbs, and Parmesan cheese. So tonight I made the last meal, the crispy tofu and black choy red curry. This is what it looks like, and this is what mine looks like. I think I did pretty close job. So I'm not the biggest fan of curry. I wasn't that excited about this. So the thing I did was just kind of altered it a little bit. Instead of, they gave you a lot of red curry paste, and I barely took like a toothpick size. But I do love the sweet chili sauce that it came with, and so I kind of just altered it a little bit. I didn't use as much ginger as the recipe called for, and I just kind of scaled it back because I don't like a lot of spicy food. Again, the only complaint that I have is just the packaging. You know, there was this bag with this bag of cashews and then a little plastic thing. It actually gives you little glass jelly jars, like tiny ones, in actual sealed containers of balsamic or rice wine vinegar, whatever they're packaging. This, it just seems, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as sanitary. Like anybody could have, you know, threw this in here and put the cap on. Oh, that didn't wash their hands. I know it's crazy, but that's just how my mind works. Like the sealed jelly jars, the actual seal on the containers of the little like liquids, I just kind of prefer that better. It just seems, I don't know. So this is just, I don't know, it doesn't seem as professional to me, I guess. But yeah, so overall, I'm not sold on Blue Apron. I will continue to order from HelloFresh. I just like the meal selections better. I think the recipes are a lot easier to follow. These are extremely wordy. HelloFresh just kind of breaks it down and simplifies it. Like here's a HelloFresh recipe. I don't know, it just seems easier to follow than the Blue Apron one. So I'm glad that I tried Blue Apron because I've always wanted to wonder. There's one other company that reached out to me that does something similar, and they're an all organic based subscription service, so I'm super excited to try that. I've already looked at some of their recipes and it looks more my style. So yeah, couple strikes against Blue Apron. I'm trying to think if there's like one thing I liked better with Blue Apron than I did with HelloFresh, and there's really not one thing I can say. I thought they had too much packaging. Their recipes weren't as easy to follow. The selection of recipes isn't more my taste, but that's, you know, that's personal preference. And overall, I just felt like there was more work involved with Blue Apron. The meals weren't separated out. Just a lot of like little things that I think that they definitely could improve upon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it kind of gave you an insight into Blue Apron and gave you a good idea of how it compares to HelloFresh. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. So I made some serious headway. Here's the little pile of eye products that I'm going to be keeping, and here's the discard pile.